Good morning, second graders. Today is Monday, April 27th. I hope you all had a fabulous weekend. I want you to know that I miss each and every one of you so very much. And I also miss our Monday morning meetings that we would do on Mondays, where we would all share one fun thing that we did over the weekend. I miss hearing all the fun things that you did, and I miss hearing your voices and seeing your beautiful faces. So I hope one of the things that you were able to do this weekend is to go outside and play. It was a beautiful weekend, and it is so fun now that it's getting nicer out and warmer out. Today, we begin week 5 of our distance learning. Yay, another week. You guys have been doing such a great job. So we're going to begin a new matrix. Looks like this, just like the other ones look. Make sure that you have week 5, April 27th to May 1st. Wow, can you believe at the end of this week, it's already May 1st? I can't believe it. Today on our must-dos for reading and writing, right here on the 27th, we have to watch my YouTube video as we read chapters 5 and 6 of Lions at Lunchtime. Why is the peanut butter important, and what will they do with it? That's a question that we're going to ask at the end of our reading. So we're going to come back to the matrix at the end of when I read our book. And then for math, we'll talk about math when we get to math too. Now, I know that it's getting nicer outside, it's getting warmer outside, and it's probably getting a little harder for us to want to do our work. It's so nice out, we don't want to have to be inside, we don't want to have to be doing our work, it's hard to do it at home, and it's getting old, isn't it? Because this is week 5, you've been doing this for a long time. But we're going to continue with our distance learning, and so I want you to keep doing your best. I want you to keep working hard, and guess what? Whenever you're done with your must-dos, you get to be done for the day. So let's get our stuff done really early, and then we'll be done, and we have the whole rest of the day, which is probably a longer amount of time to play than you would if you were in school, right? Because if we were in school, we'd be there for 6 hours or 6.5 hours. So this way, we'll get it done really fast, and then you can have the rest of the day to do whatever you want. So let's get right to it. When we left off last week, we finished chapter 4. And remember, on Friday, you got to reread one of your favorite chapters. So I hope once you got the book, you were able to do that. But when we left off in chapter 4, remember, Annie was nervous because the wildebeests were crossing the river and they were heading straight to the same spot where Annie herself fell into the mud hole. And so she was super scared that the wildebeests would fall into the mud hole and sink up to their neck in mud and not be able to get out. So remember, at the very end of the chapter, she was screaming, "Not here," she shouted, "not here." But the frantic swimmers kept coming. And frantic means they were swimming super fast because they were hurrying to try to get to her. And she was super scared that these frantic beasts, the wildebeests, would fall in the mud hole. So we're going to start chapter 5 now. "Oh, no, no, no," shouted Annie. She raced down the bank until she reached a sandy, clear spot. "Here, here," she called. The wildebeests followed her with their wild eyes. Jack watched in disbelief as the swimmers changed their course. Slowly, all the wildebeests swam to where Annie stood. She waved them in like a traffic policeman. That was actually very smart on Annie's part to recognize that they would have fallen in that mud hole and to direct them down the river. Jack grabbed his backpack. "Annie," he cried, "let's go before we get trampled." "Keep it up," she shouted to the wildebeests as she took off after Jack. They ran farther up the river, away from the incoming wildebeests. Finally, they stopped to catch their breath. They looked back. Everything seemed fine. The wildebeests were scrambling safely over the riverbank. Soon they would graze on the grass prepared by the zebras. "Good work," Jack said to Annie. "Thanks," she said. "Okay, now for our riddle." "No, first we've got to get clean," said Jack. "You look like you're in a mud suit." High-pitched laughter rang through the air. It sounded mocking and mean. Jack and Annie turned around. They saw two spotted brown animals standing in the tall grass. The creatures had bodies like dogs, but with sloping backs. They laughed again. "Ha ha," said Annie. "You don't look so great yourself." "What are they?" said Jack. He took out the book. He tried not to get mud on it as he looked for a picture. When he found it, he read aloud. "On the African plains, the hyena is the ruling predator after the lion. It makes a sound similar to a high-pitched human laugh." "What's predator mean?" said Annie. I bet most of you know what a predator is, don't you? "It means it catches things and eats them," said Jack. "Oh," said Annie, "yuck." The two hyenas laughed again, and they moved closer to Jack and Annie. Quietly, Jack read more. "The hyena has a reputation for being a thief and a coward." "Let's see if they're cowards," whispered Annie. "Let's try to scare them." The hyenas laughed and moved a little closer. "How?" Jack asked. "Act like a monster," said Annie. "Now." Jack and Annie made terrible monster faces. They put out their hands and rushed at the hyenas. "Ah!" they shouted. The hyenas yelped and scurried off. "Scaredy cats!" Annie shouted after them. "Come on," said Jack. Annie and Jack took off in the other direction. They ran around a bend in the river. Jack heard the hyena laughter again. It sounded far away. "Good," he said. "They're gone." There's the picture. There's Jack and Annie about ready to act like monsters. And there's the hyenas. And one of them got scared and turned around, and I bet the other one did too. "Hey, maybe we can wash over there," said Annie. She pointed to the edge of the forest. There was a small pond surrounded by tall grass. Zebras were drinking the water. "Yeah," said Jack, "if it's safe enough for them to drink." The zebras ignored them as they walked toward the pond. When they reached the edge of the water, Jack set his heavy pack down in the dry grass. He glanced around. No lions were in sight. But then he heard something. On the very far side of the pond, something very big was coming out of the trees. You think it was the lions? Let's see. Chapter 6, Spick and Span. "Be still," said Jack. Jack and Annie stood frozen as an elephant stepped out of the shadows. It waded into the pond and dipped its trunk into the water. "Oh, wow," said Annie. Jack breathed a sigh of relief. An elephant wasn't going to chase them and eat them. Still, the elephant was huge. So it wasn't lions, it was an elephant. "Let's sneak away," said Jack. "But I want to watch," said Annie. "Fine," said Jack. He was tired of Annie getting sidetracked. "I'm going to solve the riddle myself. I'll meet you back at the treehouse." He turned to go. A spray of water rained down on him. It came from behind. He shouted with surprise and looked back. The elephant's trunk was pointed straight at Annie. "Cool," she cried. "He's giving me a shower." I'm glad you have your copy of the book. It's probably easier to see the pictures, isn't it? The elephant sprayed her again. Then again. The mud slowly rolled off her face, her braids, her t-shirt, her shorts, her legs, and her sneakers. "I guess the elephant doesn't like dirty kids," said Annie, laughing. Her eyes were squeezed shut. Finally, she was clean and soaking wet. "Now it's your turn," she said to Jack. Jack stepped forward and shut his eyes tight. A blast of water hit him. It did feel like a shower, a strong shower. When Jack was clean, the elephant let out a grunt. Then he started to splash himself with water. "Thanks," said Annie. "Yeah, thanks," said Jack. "I'm spick and span now," said Annie. "When the sun dries me off, I'll be like new." "Good," said Jack. "Now we can get serious." He picked up his heavy pack. "We have to figure out the answer to the riddle so we can leave this place. before we run into real trouble. He looked around nervously. Where are the lions, he wondered. A small bird flitted near his head. Hi, Annie said to the bird. Jack turned back to her. According to the riddle, we're looking for something gold and sweet. What do you want? Annie asked the bird. The bird twittered and flew around Jack and Annie. Its feathers were dull gray, but it had a bright, happy manner. Annie, listen to me, not the bird, said Jack. The bird kept fluttering around them. She's trying to tell us something, said Annie. Jack let out a long sigh. Oh, you are driving me crazy today, he said. But I feel like she needs our help, said Annie. Maybe her babies fell out of the nest. Annie, you can't save every animal in Africa, said Jack. This bird is important, said Annie. Trust me. The bird darted toward the trees. It landed on a branch and cocked its head at them. She says, follow, said Annie. The bird headed into the forest. Annie started after it. Don't go in there, said Jack. You might run into... There was no need to finish. The bird and Annie had disappeared into the trees. A snake or a lion, Jack said to himself. Come on, Annie called. Jack moaned. He pulled on his pack and ran. The peanut butter jar thumped against his back. And that is the end of chapter 6. So we are going to look at the matrix now. And we're going to talk about the end of that chapter. So it says on Monday, watch my YouTube video as we read chapters 5 and 6, which we just did. Why is the peanut butter important? And that's the question that is on our matrix today about the end of chapter 6. What will they do with it? Use page 10 to draw your prediction in the box. No writing yet. So remember, they keep talking about this peanut butter in his backpack. They've mentioned it in almost every chapter. So obviously, it plays an important part of our story. So what you are to do today is just to draw the picture. That's it. On these lines, don't write anything because that's what you're going to do tomorrow. Okay, but don't write anything. Today, your prediction is just going to be drawn. So it says at the top, each chapter so far has mentioned the peanut butter in Jack's backpack. Do you think this will be an important detail later in the story? What might happen with the peanut butter? Make a prediction. So draw a picture of why you think the peanut butter might be important. What do you think they might use it for? So get your crayons or your colored pencils and go ahead and draw a picture of why you think that peanut butter is important. Remember, no writing. And I also want you to remember that you promised you're not going to read ahead. We made a promise a couple days ago that we weren't going to read ahead in the story. So no cheating. We're going to read it together. Right now, I just want you to predict what you think the peanut butter has to do with our story. And we will find out hopefully in the next couple chapters, because tomorrow we will read 2 more chapters. But make sure that you're promising not to read ahead, okay? Because at school we wouldn't be able to read ahead, would we? All right, we are going to move on to math. So Mrs. Lunning is going to put the math from Friday. So if you need to pause the video to go get your math packet, go ahead and do that. And I don't think today we need any crayons for a graph. You just need a pencil. So grab your math packet and a pencil, and we will get going on our math. So Friday you had to do the guided practice page, and that was on page 556. So we're going to quickly go over those answers. So number 1, what? The flavor with the least votes is what? And we should go up to our graph and we see that the shortest bar is vanilla. So we know that that's our answer. And remember, we talked about the longer the bar, the more they are. When we talk about bar graphs, that means that's the most, just like chocolate is the longest bar, so it had the most votes. The opposite is true with the shortest. The shortest bar, the fewest there are. And that's how you knew that vanilla was the answer. Number 2, chocolate received 2 more votes than what? And if you look up above and take 2 of these votes away, now which one equaled that? And you should have known that that was the pink one, strawberry. So hopefully you put strawberry. What 2 flavors did a total of 11 students vote for? And if you go up to the graph, 5 voted for strawberry and 6 voted for mint. And we know that 5 plus 6 equals 11. So you should have written strawberry and mint. And then the talk math, I hope you talked about this over with your parents or a family member. How could this graph help a teacher plan a class party? And you should have answered something along the lines of that the teacher should buy more chocolate ice cream than vanilla. Because on this graph, the students, more of them voted for chocolate than vanilla. So that would have told the teacher that this particular class likes chocolate ice cream better than vanilla. All right, great job. We are ready for our independent work. This side I need. Okay, and you needed to do page 557. Let's get out our matrix just to make sure. So 557 and 558, numbers 4 through 12. And then it said, try the brain builders, number 13 and 14, if you wish. So I know it says if you wish, but these brain builders really aren't that hard. And I know what awesome mathematicians each one of you is. So I hope that you go ahead and do the brain builders, even if it says if you wish, because I know that you could totally do those. And I'll even give you some hints to help you. And then it says we are skipping lesson 6, and you can thank us later. So we'll skip lesson 6, and tomorrow we'll jump into lesson 7. So let's go ahead and look at our independent practice page 557. So this time you're looking at a bar graph that talks about hair color. So we have brown hair, black hair, blonde hair, and red hair. And just like our other bar graphs, this one's a horizontal bar graph. And remember, bar graphs have a title, and then they have something on this side to tell you what you're looking at, which in this case, it's the color of hair. And then they have numbers at the bottom. And remember, each number lines up with a line so that when you look at the bar graph, it goes right up against that line, and that's where your number is. So, number 4, what color hair do 5 students have? Number 5, what color hair do 4 students have? Number 6, what 2 hair colors do the same number of students have? So you're going to have to look at your bar graph, and 2 of the bars are the same length. Number 7, how many students were surveyed? And I hope you know how to find that. Count up your squares in your bar graph. That'll tell you how many people voted. Number 8, how would this graph change if 20 students took the survey? Now, this one is a little harder, so I actually helped you with this one. That's why it's always a good idea to watch my whole video, because I often give hints and sometimes even the answer like I did right now. So obviously, if 20 students took the survey, that means more people would be asked what their favorite hair color is. So then more people would have to add on to these bars, right? So your answer is some or all of the bars would be longer. And I'll pause it kind of slow, so if you need to pause and write it down, some or all the bars would, and I'll move it over, be longer. So go ahead and pause it and write that down if you need help. Okay, number 9, we're going to go to a new bar graph. We have pets, and we have dog, cat, fish, and bird. Once again, here's your title. Here's what word is describing what it's about, because this is the type of pets. And then at the bottom, here's your numbers so that you can know where your bar graph stops. Okay? All right, number 9, which pet do most students have? Write that down. Number 10, which 2 pets do the fewest students have? Which 2 pets do the fewest students have? So that means 2 of them are the same. So write both of them. And number 11, how many students have cats and birds? So you're going to have to add those up. And on the back, here's your bar graph about your favorite activity. So we have video games, playing outside, reading, and board games. And once again, it's a horizontal bar graph. The bars go across. Number 12, how many more people like reading or board games than playing video games? So you're going to have to add up reading and board games, and then you're going to have to decide how many more people like those two things than playing video games. So reading, you look up here is 4, so put a 4 up there. And board games is 2, so you can stick a 2 under here. What's 4 plus 2? Write that number right here. Okay, and then it says how many more people. So when you hear how many more, that means you should go ding, 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 subtract. So here's my subtract sign. And then how many people like playing video games? Go back up and look and put that number right here. And then there's your number sentence to help you solve the answer. All right, I'm going to go over the brain builders just really fast because I hope you do those. Number 13, Samantha also chooses an activity. Then 3 activities are the favorite of the same number of people. Which activity did she choose? So on your bar graph, if you look up here, if she chose an activity, which one would she choose so that there was 3 that had the same length of a bar? Okay, if she were to choose one of those activities, which one would make it so that 3 of them were the same? Put that answer in the blank, and you're going to write the activity that she chose. And number 14, 10 more people were surveyed for the graph above. 3 more people like video games. 3 more people like 3 more people like board games, 3 more people like video games. The rest like playing outside. Now, how many people like each activity? So 10 more people were surveyed. 3 of them like board games, so go up here and add board games. You're going to have to color those in, 3 more. And then 3 like video games. So go up here on your video games. Look, it's going to go off the chart, isn't it? 3 more. Okay, so that was 6 people because 3 plus 3 is 6. And we know 10 people were surveyed. So just like before, 10 were surveyed. Take away 6 that they already told you about. Now this answer right here, it says the rest like playing outside. So that means this answer right here is up in playing outside. So add that onto your graph. And then what you have to do is how many people like each activity. So go up at the top, and your first one is video games. So write video games equals, and tell me how many like that. And then go back up, playing outside. So go down here, playing outside equals, tell me how many people like that. And reading, write reading down equals, how many people like that. And board games, write that down, and how many people liked that. See, it wasn't that hard. It's just a little bit of extra work, but I know you can do it. So good luck, boys and girls, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, and we will meet back here tomorrow for some more reading and math. Have a great day.